No way. Frank Hopkins is in the room. And that is his office in Louisiana. So I don't know what's going on with him. We have people entering the room now. Hiya, Ken. You're on mute. Heather. Hey.
Hello. How's everybody doing?
Good. How are you?
I think I'm good.
Okay, well, that's
time that we're all in.
be the right answer to me. Hi, Heather.
Hi, Bill. Hi,
Nice
Mike.
to see you.
Hey,
You
how are
too.
There's Henry. Hi, Henry.
Hey, Michael, long time since we've chatted. How are you?
Henry, you know that you could actually run this webinar. You've already been certified, my friend.
This is the, I thought I'd listen in. I was just curious it's been a long time, Mike.
Cool. Great. Feel free to add in as you want to give some substance.
Yeah.
Hi, Henry.
Hey, Bill, how are you doing?
You know what? No worse for the wear, and that's a big thing to say.
That's cool.
Right?
You know, it's really funny. I was thinking just the other, I forget what brought it up. I was thinking about the last time we were together at the cabin and just remembering that beautiful place. And I can't, for the life of me, it wasn't because of this. Something else came up and I'm like, oh yeah, that was a cool.
Deer Hollow.
Huh?
Deer Hollow.
Deer Hollow, yeah.
Yeah, wow. It's amazing, isn't it? Wow.
Yeah. Like I said, don't know what it brought it to mind, but it came to mind last week.
A lot of things have changed in a short period of time.
I can imagine.
Wow. Yeah.
Maybe it was the forest fires around here that made me think about it.
Where are you? Where are the fires?
So I'm north of Denver by an hour up against the foothills. And the fire that's in Cameron Pass, Cameron's 30 miles northwest of me. So we were smelling it. It was pretty bad. We even had ash falling on the stuff in the backyard for a while.
You know, many of you know Jonathan Hulsh on our team. He's in Santa Cruz, California. He and his family were evacuated, and they still are.
Oh my.
That's terrible.
Oh my.
It looks like the waiting room is still populating, right?
We're in Southern California here. We're getting a lot of smoke and ash, but we're on the beach and there's no fire near us, but the air is terrible.
Where are you, Tom?
I'm what's called the Marina Peninsula. I'm right south of LAX. They're right north of LAX, right?
Yeah. And you've got bad smoke.
Yeah, the air is foul.
Amazing.
And a quick shout out to Frank Hopkins. If I have you pegged right, you're right in the middle of Hurricane Laura as we speak, Frank. How are you holding up? Oh, you're on mute.
I say it's going on, but we're outside of the hurricane area.
The last time I looked at the weather, the whole state of Louisiana was covered in red.
Well, it's been raining all morning and the wind's been blowing like thunderstorm kind of weather, but it's not as bad as if you're living in Lake Charles, you're underwater. So
wow. Yeah,
it's
just
a good place not to be today.
Where are you, Frank?
I'm in Baton Rouge.
Okay, I'm in New Orleans. So we're actually
okay.
under that rain band right now. I've actually got worse thunderstorms right now after the storm made landfall last night than I have all week long.
Wow.
Heather,
Well, I'm glad you're safe there.
Yeah, you're down New Orleans.
Yeah. Well, we've been very blessed. Thank you. We did not need that kind of storm to come through here.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, Ty, do we have anybody else trying to log in?
Folks, it seems like the trickle is slowing, but I'll let them in as they come. Feel free to get started, Mike.
Awesome. Well, while we're here, I'd like to let you all see Ty Peterson. He's our technical facilitator today. If
Everyone.
there's anything you have issues with login, chat room, anything like that, he'll be following up with all that. He's also the one, we will be offering this PowerPoint deck to everybody who's participated. Here, somebody on his team will be sending this as follow-up. But I'd like to welcome you all. Bill and I are really glad to have this time with all of you. And welcome. Bill, if we could move it forward one. All of you know the Leadership Circle as a result of certifications and other experiences with us. So you know our purpose statement. It's what we aspire to be. It's what we aim to do in our daily work. It's something we invite our community into sharing with us. And it very much is prevalent, and you'll see this as we introduce you to the leadership system. So our purpose is we exist to evolve the conscious practice of leadership. We do that to steward the planet and to awaken all of us into our inherent unity. And while this has been a profound part of my daily work, the 9 years I've been with the company, it's really amazing. The last 6 months with recent happenings, we're having more and more conversations with leaders who are really wanting to step in to statements such as this. So we're hearing just a huge interest and a cry and a motivation to learn more about the very things we'll be talking with you all about today. One more, please, Bill. So today, we've got an hour with you. We'll not take that full time, but we're going to keep it open for any questions at the end. We're going to be overviewing a program called the Leadership System. And we're going to also be describing a virtual certification experience that we'll be offering October 6th through 8th. And our goal is to provide you all information necessary so you can make an informed decision. Well, we know this is a big decision. And so if ever any one of you wants additional one-on-one follow-up, you can feel free to email me. I'm Mike O'Connor. You can also just put a note in the chat bar saying you'd like some follow-up, or tell us what you'd like as follow-up, and we'll be sure to follow up so you have everything that you need. So with all that, I'm very pleased to introduce you to Bill Adams. Many of you know him already. He's the CEO of the Full Circle Group in the Leadership Circle. He's also going to be one of the facilitators for this upcoming certification. And a lot of people in our community are very familiar. He's co-authored 2 very popular books. One is Mastering Leadership, and more recently, Scaling Leadership. So with that, we've asked Bill to join us today. And Bill, if you'll just kick us off.
Perfect. Thank you so much. It's good to see everybody. I can't even imagine that even 4 or 5 months ago, I would think that this has become, even though I did so much work virtually, this has become a pretty familiar forum. And I find that when I say I'm really glad to see everybody, I am. It's like, wow, how great is that I can connect even in this world, and as the things are changing rapidly, that technology allows us to be in relationship in the way that we are, which we wouldn't be otherwise. So a lot of gratitude for that. Even though the disruption and the changes seem to challenge most of us on a regular basis, I know that they do me. Michael and I were talking and thinking about what would be of most value here to give some understanding of what we've done around the work and the leadership system and where all of that framed up and came from. And so we want to just spend, I won't take more than maybe 10, 12 minutes here, but just give you a little bit of perspective and share a little bit of perspective on a couple things. One, what's the positioning core argument, the work that we're doing with the leadership system, and why, what's behind all of that. And then secondly, some real clarity around how we see things starting to change and emerge in our field, and what's being asked for us and asked for us to do. So how that's really working. And I had that morning where I had a coaching session this morning. I don't spend as much time doing the work as I used to, although I'm still probably 30% of my time. And I was on with one of my clients this morning, and I was blown away, struck by, and you'd think you'd be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised anymore, but he started out the conversation, this leader. He's built his own company. He founded it 15 years in. founded it twice, once in Germany and here in the U.S. Had to start it all over again, and when he moved to the U.S. and he's an extraordinary leader, incredible entrepreneur. Built it up to $500 million. They're going to hit $1 billion soon. I'd say within the next 2 years, still in a growth phase even during this period of time. And we're maybe 5 minutes into the conversation, into the coaching session. And he said, well, what I really need to talk about today, I'll kind of, your ears perk up when you hear that. I really need some perspective. I went back through the notes of the coaching session we had 1.5 years ago. And in that coaching session, you told me as a CEO, my job was to hold up the complexity so that you could actually see it and understand it, and people could learn how to work and navigate through it. I'm not doing so well at holding up myself right now with the amount of complexity I'm dealing with. I'd like to talk about complexity. And I thought, wow, you know how that goes on. You got the thing happening in your head in the conversation while you're also in the conversation. You're listening to your listening. And the thought process that was in there this morning in this coaching session I just finished 45 minutes ago was, here's a leader that literally in the work that we do, the work that we all do, needs some real help both to get perspective and be practical in the consideration, as well as understand what he does out of this and what it means to create and develop his organization in the way that he can. And here's the dilemma, and this is right at the heart of what we've done with the leadership system. He finds himself in a position right now that in specific areas, one in sales, which is he's got a go-to-market team, leadership team, that he feels like what he's got to do is step in and take more control because things are not where they need to be. But he knows that if he steps in and takes more control, manages, if you will, does others' jobs for them, that he won't be able to do the job that he's primarily required to do right now, which is real clear on where the business needs to go, what it's going to take, and how it gets his resources and capability up to do that. And then we just really worked our way through all this complexity. And the net in that conversation was that he's got 2 prime teams. One's his go-to-market leadership team, and the other is his global leadership team. This is, smaller business comparatively to some of the ones we work with, obviously. And his primary role is how he develops the leaders on those teams and how he develops those teams. So their collective and individual leadership effectiveness, expanding their capacity and capability so that it can also expand the capacity and the capability of the organization to perform and create outcomes that matter most. And, oh, by the way, if he doesn't do that, he's going to be locked into doing the work down in the organization that will keep him from where he really needs to be spending his time. And so that really, in a pretty significant way, qualifies for me why it is that we created the leadership system. And that is, how is it that we can actually, and we've been in the market with this now for a number of years. We prototyped it within clients, 6-7 years ago. It's been refreshed multiple times since then. And what we were primarily about solving was, how could we create a leadership system that developed individual and collective leadership, expanded the capacity and capability of the organization to lead, a whole scaling leadership notion, and got really right into working teams around their leadership and at the same time as a team when we're doing it with intact groups. And the business argument on this was that organizations can't grow and they can't obviously expand capacity, expand in the way they need to without increasing their capacity and capability and leadership and everything else that they do. So that's the backdrop. And we're more into that work now instead of less. And we're finding that within the R&D lab, we call our consulting services side, whether you're an internal consultant practitioner or an external consultant practitioner, that's the work that we're doing in almost all the organizations that we're in, which is a business imperative around, if we're not more effective collectively and individually as leaders, we don't know how to work in a team and be really effective at that and create a team of teams, then we can't build and grow the organization in the way that we need to. And the old models that we're going to follow to do that without the development agenda is not going to be there. It's just not going to do it for us. So that's the frame. I mean, that's literally the frame. And the business argument that we put over, the slides in here, the 8 or 9 slides, and this first one you see is that we know where the performance side is on the reactive and the creative, how that looks. We've got the research to back that up. We understand leadership effectiveness it's just head nod validity. The more effective you are as leaders, the better results you're going to create, both on the task and the relationship side, that whole creative orientation. We don't find a lot of argument about that, and we have to be able to do that at scale, which requires us to do that with some sort of leadership system, and you all have a variety of ways that you go about that. Once you move out of the individual to more than one, to the collective. So the business argument around that is it's a necessity, it's a business necessity, it plays itself out, it's being able to create that capacity and capability so the organization can get the results that are most important. Without that, we have that from an issue standpoint. And the point of view that we have in here is that, I don't want to make it overly complex. Wow, because it is so complex already. So as leaders as we as organizations are dealing with this increased complexity, we have to expand consciousness, state of mind, mindset. We have to be able to actually take on more, bring in more, see more, in order for us to navigate and be the kind of leaders that are required in the world that we're living in, and one that seems to be getting more and more complex. And that's the whole sense of it. And we have to be able to do that at scale. That's the leadership system piece of this. So whether it's one leader, like I was talking with my friend Hanko this morning, or have one organization right now where we're working with 10,000 leaders. And that's the leadership system side of this. It's a development agenda. And the work that we need to do with that at scale, literally, and we obviously in our work do it off the universal model of leadership and the reactive creative and what that means with leadership circle profile. What's that transition that we as a leadership system need to make from primarily reactive leadership or mid-reactive to mid-creative to high creative, to make that transition between reactive and creative, and how do we do that at scale? In service of creating outcomes that matter most, which include the results, as well as the way that we as an organization altruistically contribute to the planet in the way that we think about the larger community, which means to us globally. And the leadership system is one of those tools that we designed to take that on. So I'm going to just stop there. And I just want to, for a couple of moments, right? I'm not going to spend any time here on what you're all familiar with around the development gap, but for a couple of moments, and then turn the time over to Michael. Just as you listen to and we think through what we are experiencing and facing as organizations, our primary mode obviously is business, as leaders, and you hear about leadership system and the need for scaling leadership effectiveness, being able to do that to increase capacity and capability. I'm curious what comes to mind for you all? You know, what thoughts or questions, what's in there? And anybody, just jump in here and throw out either a thought or a question, and let's take 5 minutes and chat about it.
Please
Just
unmute
curious
your phone.
what comes to mind. Anybody, don't be quiet.
Hey,
Hi,
this
Bill.
is Heather. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead, Petra.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Oh, all right. We'll take turns. So, hi, Bill. Thanks for that
Hi.
intro. And somehow you have a very calm spirit as you were saying all that. I'm just resonating.
It's
Just
now
wanted
become
to-
a necessity, my friend. It's like,
Yes.
seriously, I think I better be calm this morning.
I love the polarity of, and you're like, and this is what it is. And what I'm seeing with a lot of the clients is holding that tension and the feeling of basically Maslow's hierarchy of needs. So a lot of these things we're talking about are, third, fourth order, and the dilemma in the system are first and second order right now, in essence.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to put that out there as a thought and observation I'm seeing, since you said throw things in to talk about.
Wow. And that's ever a wonderful illustration example of exactly what it means to expand our capacity and capability, and what that means from a developmental perspective. Because when we go to first and second order needs and in survival, what does that actually mean to the fact that if we get stuck there, it's going to relegate us into a position we don't want to be in. Beautiful.
And just to build on what Petra said, what I see in my clients is that fear makes them or causes them to be more unconscious. So they step back into that reactive, fear-driven state, and it's like they get amnesia.
Yeah, I really so appreciate that. I had a mentor once that told me that unconscious is what I choose not to know. And I'm playing that one out in my mind because, wow, my coach early on, someone separate this mentor used to say to me, "So Bill, why are you going minus on me?" Now, I'm just very confident whenever Chris said that to me, what he meant by going minus was not a complimentary state. Right? And wow, it's so true. It's almost like we get amnesia on that.
What do you recommend, Bill, when that happens?
I go very basic with the am I awake? So what does it mean to actually awaken? What does it mean to awake in a way that honors all of that and allows me to be aware? And often when I go unconscious or go minus, or any of us do, it's a way for us to deal with overwhelm. Right? It's one of those places. So
say to the person you're coaching when you experience that in them?
Yeah, exactly. And, I love the fact that we can have those conversations because we get to be in that position of listening deeply and making the connections. And then as a coach, I get to actually step in and I don't have to say much to help awaken. And oh, by way, make it normal, make it okay. I mean, I get into survival like anybody else.
Sure.
I'd like to. Sorry.
Thanks.
This is. Go ahead, and then this is Robin. I'll come in.
So this is Cindy. What I was going to say to tag on to what Tom and Petra said. For me, the other element or the other dimension is time. So I would describe it as the tension between stability and flexibility, right? I need to be
Nice.
I need to be flexible enough to adapt, but I need to be stable enough, or I need to create the conditions for that in my company or in my group, and in a time when my foresight has gone from weeks, months, years to days or hours. That time dimension is superimposed on that. So, to Tom, to your question, you mentioned unconsciousness. slipping into that, I want to stay more stable, or I need to stay more stable than flexible at this moment in time. Helping increase that time from an hour to a day, or from a day to 2 days, or 2 days to a week, might be a way to access the unconscious versus consciousness of it. If we can extend that period of time where I need to stay stable a little bit, just a little bit longer in the uncertainty that is today, then maybe that would help access that a little bit more.
That's great. I work with the word and concept of intentionality when it comes. And I try to help those leaders stay conscious and intentional.
Mm-hmm.
They seem to resonate with that concept.
Yeah. I think there was one more. Let's take one more.
Yeah, this is Robin.
Hi, Robin.
Hey there. I'm loving this conversation, and building on the intentionality and supporting our clients to come to longer horizons of time. There's a way in which this map is constructed where I'm noticing that the SCSC could get conflated with egocentric just by the way that this is presented.
Yeah.
And my wish for this would actually be to support some kind of recognition that as we're working with our clients in complexity, that we're really supporting them intentionally to be in a pendulation with VUCA and SCSC, and in this
Beautiful.
This tension between the two. Just the way that this is presented, I think I would maybe construct it a little differently. Just to really talk about the importance of that. And right now, and with so many of my clients, I notice that we're just doing a lot of resourcing and more in the SESC to support their growing capacity.
I really appreciate that, Robin. And I always am careful that I don't allow the three-dimensional or one-dimensional limit me for the conversation I need to have, which is, hey, I don't know any of us that don't drop back in. I revisit quite often the SCSC. Are you kidding me? There's a bit in here where I'm saying to myself, wow, I wish it was a little more stable, a little more certain, simple, maybe Back to the Future, if you will, and all of that play. And I drop into my reactive. I mean, there's stages of being aware of what my reactive is and going back and forth, and we all do. We all do, so you're right on.
Yeah, I notice I'm like, I also don't want to conflate a CSC with reactive. And I think that's a primary point here. So I bring a trauma-informed perspective to working with clients and working with the nervous system. And the stability, certainty, simplicity, clarity is actually something I see in fifth order clients. There's a knowing when we can bring that intentionality, as Tom was speaking to, where we're really consciously pendulating between these two. And it's not a reactivity. In fact, I see it more as a creative stance and an integral stance.
Couldn't agree with you more. Thank you for that. So here's the play for us. You take this conversation and put it all together. What we look at is say, oh, wow. We need to be able to do that at scale. So what does it mean to be able to develop at scale, which takes us into what we've done now on our first parts of our work in the last number of years of doing it both one-on-one and doing it within a leadership system. So let's just take a bit of time here, and Michael, take us through what we've created and the way that we work it, and we'll have some conversation around that, and anything that we can provide that would be even in this conversation found as useful would be our desire. So let's spend a little bit of time on that. Michael?
Thank you, Bill. The biggest challenge will be the screen share right here. Let's see if you can.
Or I can just do it for you, Michael, if you want.
All right, as we enter in, I was reflecting on this conversation. I'll share a very brief personal example. Many of you know Cindy Adams. She is my coach, and coincidentally, she will also be the other facilitator for the upcoming certification. A few weeks into COVID, as our office was shutting down and I was sitting in my home office, I was reflecting. I was in a really unusual place. Now, I'm very aware, and many of you are as well, my go-tos are my pleasing and my driven, and they've always served me so well. But I was in a place of passive passive is something that was just so foreign to me. I didn't know. I was literally in a frozen state. Now what? Nothing on the calendar that looks like an airplane flight or a certification, or I was just kind of frozen for a while. And with a little bit of direction and some help, I was able to just kind of pause and reflect on what is this fear I'm dealing with? How does that contrast with what do I care about? And with some help from my coach, I kind of got leaned back into the counter, the 1-2 of purpose and vision, and kind of just put a lot of my energy there, kept it attached to my identity. And that kind of helped me kind of get through what was a challenging time for me, probably day 10 into this shelter in place moment. So I'm reminded we all are, we're amongst all this. We are leaders amongst ourselves dealing with our own complexities, and those of us who are doing our work are those that can best serve others. So with that, Bill, if we go one further, we'll be giving you a high-level overview of the leadership system. And one more, please. And with that, there are 3 subcomponents of the leadership system. We'll hit on all of them today. Please hear this. No client team that you're working with necessarily means you need to use all 3 components. There are successful deployments of the system using any 1, 2, or 3 of them. Bill? Everything in the leadership system starts with a baseline. So the leadership circle profile is a typical start to this. You could also be working with the collective team and doing a collective leadership assessment, which previously was known as the leadership culture survey. And up to this point, you all can imagine a common practice would do your leadership circle profile. Let's say you're working with an executive team of 8 people, and then meet with them one-on-one and do debriefs that might last an hour and a half or 2 hours. With the leadership system, we add a few components to this. So the first of the 3 elements is something called Promise of Leadership, and it's a business meeting. And the topic of this business meeting is leadership, and you get a dialogue going about the collective team, what they care about, what they're trying to achieve, what their business outcomes are, and how they as leaders can influence the success or the lack of that. And so the Promise of Leadership is a chance where they talk about leadership. It's in that meeting where they get their feedback reports for the first time. You orient everybody at the same time, and they actually start having some insights. They have maybe a half hour to look at their feedback reports for the first time. And while they're out doing that, you're getting the mat set up. We can either do that in a physical setting or a virtual setting. And then they spend a couple hours really starting to share their initial insights or their feedback by doing some different activities on the leadership circle mat. A debrief one-on-one is still part of this, and that'll happen soon after. But when you meet with them soon after, let's say a day or a few days later, they will have already been oriented to the profile. They've already had some insights. Anything emotional might have been managed a little bit. They'll start having some developmental insights. So you're going to find that your debriefs are much more powerful, and you're going to make a lot more progress in them as a result of that 2-step process. The second element of the leadership system is what we call leader to leader. And we'll give you more information on this, but imagine over the course of a year, these are 16 different courses. In a physical environment, they're half day. In a virtual environment, they're more like 90 minutes to 2 hours. And the plan is to keep meeting with the team periodically for a strategic timeout, just go deeper and deeper and deeper into their collective interests as well as their individual differences. So you don't put somebody necessarily through all 16 courses. Based on what you know about them, you can pick any 6 or 8 or 12. We have a few clients who just keep repeating them. They've been on multi-year journeys, 10, 15, 20, and they just keep meeting every 6 weeks to keep getting the inoculation. And then the final element of the leadership system is what we call a pulse survey. So you work with leaders, with your support, they zero in on a couple of developmental priorities. It might look like a one big thing with some start and stop behaviors. The pulse is a little mini survey. I've recently done one myself. I identified 8 people in my organization who know me well. I've showcased with them and shared with them, here are my 3 developmental priorities right now. And periodically, just a mini survey goes out. My coach then gets a report and will meet with me and talk about progress I'm making against those 3 goals. So we'll go into more detail about each of these in our session today. But if you'll just know, all of these are part of the leadership system certification. Many people use all 3 as they deploy with the cohort. Others might just use 1 or 2 of the elements. Everything's possible as long as you start off with a baseline with the 360 assessment or the CLE. Bill?
Yeah, I just stepping back for a moment here and playing this out. What we're about creating. So in the way that the leadership circle works is that we have a consulting services business, as most of you know, and we use that as our R&D lab. So what we're after is how is it that we can continue to create product, tool, practice that we can codify, and then we bring that into the community. And that was the genesis of how we ended up with the leadership system, because of a need and work over that period of time. And it came off of really our whole process that comes out of Cole's work on how it is that we know adults learn. So the basis of that is designed into the creation and the way that we designed this, the curriculum design. And so it comes off of that frame. And we're following a model in here that really works the what we talk about as the interruption cycle. In other words, we know that raising awareness, making sure that awareness of how it is that we as leaders, collective and individual leaders showing up, that provides for us an interruption that we're then able to learn out of. Here's where it is that we are really collectively leading effectively. Here's where we're less effective. Here's where I am individually, what that means, and then how is it I work on that, and then provide the kind of experience and reflective observation that allows me to take it and apply it and make the kind of change through active experimentation that's going to have that happen. That's designed into all of this from a developmental perspective. We know that every bit of this, from a design perspective, that all of these elements, methodologies, the way that we go about doing our work are important, but they're all necessary, but not necessarily enough. So what we've really worked on is how is it that we can combine the modes of learning and development, so that we're using what's there, what's possible. And man, I'll tell you what, I'm learning so much more about that now in the last year than I did previously, on understanding when to deploy what modality and how to do them in combination. And it's taught me a lot about my own learning experience around how it is that I design thought process and curriculum to match that up. So that's what that is, and that's the way the leadership system put together.
Okay, so with that, I'm going to go into a little bit more detail. We're going to move quickly, so we won't get the level of detail that some of you want. Please, a reminder, feel free to reach out. We'd be happy to walk you through this, show you materials and so forth. But Bill, one more slide, please. If we look at Promise of Leadership, I discussed that briefly, but that's the business meeting where people all get together as a team. They talk about leadership against the context of their business realities and the pieces that they want to achieve collectively as a group. And we give them a chance to see their leadership circle profile feedback reports for the very first time. And they start to reflect on their initial experiences by walking through a variety of different mat activities we have going on. We have this mat. Many of you have seen it in certification. We also have it virtually and have had some really great success with it. But I think the piece that's really most profound about the Promise of Leadership is two things. One, it really does keep the business imperative top of mind through this development offering. And two, I've just been so impressed on how much more profound and effective the debriefs are as a result of somebody being oriented and having a little time to sit with it, both themselves as well as in the group around the mat before they come to me with a debrief. So the Promise of Leadership, in a physical environment, it could easily be a half-day session. In the virtual environment, it's typically about 2 hours. Next. Leader to leader is the broadest element of this system, and people have a lot of positive things to say. I've been in this field for many years, and I've never seen a design quite like this.
You didn't say how many, Michael.
I don't recall, but almost as many as
come on. You don't have to be shy.
Yeah. This is not a training program, although people want to say it is. It's 16 different modules. Each module is facilitated. Every module, by and large, has a very similar agenda. But if it's in a physical environment, imagine a half-day unit. A virtual session would be more like an hour and a half or 2 hours. But everything is kind of the same agenda every single time you meet with a group every 4 to 6 weeks. The only thing that's different is that middle part, which is new content. So the content this week might be courage, it might be vision, it might be relationships. It speaks to something that we all recognize at the top of the circle. And the learning design is pretty clever. So one more slide, please, Bill. When you get a group of people together, You have them for a couple of hours. You're truly facilitating. You're not teaching, but you have about 90 minutes worth of content that's new with every course. And essentially how it works is, if we're in session 5 together, the first thing we do is we report back on progress we've made towards commitments we made when we were together last month. Whatever the topic was last month, everybody walks away with a commitment or two that overlays a business challenge or interest they brought into it. So we're reporting back, and over time, you are not the one who's responding and prodding things on. You're going to find that the team, the peer group, is starting to do more and more in discussing with people successes they've had, challenges they've had. Here's something I tried and it didn't work. You're going to find more and more that the cohort is supporting each other. So one of the really significant side benefit, or one of the side benefits of this, is the peer coaching element. Over time, your role as a facilitator lessened, and more of it will be the empowered team working together through leadership development. But we start off with a check-in. We then are positioned with a business case I brought into the situation. In this case, we'll say it's integrity. So I brought my business case, you brought yours. First thing we'll do is we'll get into small groups and share our situation with each other and start reflecting on the content that the facilitator shared with us as it applies to the very scenario I brought with us. So me and my peer, a fellow executive in my organization or in my cohort, we're working and setting each other up to be successful in applying the newly acquired skills, in this case, integrity. We then all get back together. We have a very significant report back on what it is I've committed to doing, holding myself accountable to the whole group. You as facilitator will be making notes so you can hold people to this. And we repeat that rhythm every 4 to 6 weeks. So imagine doing this 6 times, 8 times, 12 times, 25 times. I don't want to overlook also, you might still be doing your one-on-one coaching in between all these. You're going to see more and more leaders really leaning into the creative, really staying committed to their professional development priorities, and the team collectively starting to share in the interest of each other's success. As we talk about 16 topics, imagine it's an a la carte menu that you can choose from. We have 3 that we put on the front end as highly recommended. This is if you haven't done any work with a cohort that you're working with, just some upfront how to position and map the entire journey, whether it's a year-long experience, a 6-month experience. We help people understand the element of accountability in your own development and the role of a leadership development plan as something that's a fluid document that you'll continue to look at with every step of this way. And we have people set personal visions and collective visions, so it's something that we're constantly working through for the whole experience. Next. You'll see here a list of the topics. And for anybody that's interested, we have more detail we can share on each of these. But half-day courses or 2-hour virtual courses on every one of these topics. We're playing around with adding to this list. There's new emerging.
Already added a couple, Michael. We've added lead complexity.
Great.
Yeah, we've got the relationship one that we built now. So we have about 18. And the other element of this now is that when I'm gonna just mention this and not spend any time on it, is we knew that we had to move at scale, and so we've added the component of being able to do it asynchronistically learning, asynchronistic learning with synchronistic learning, and we're doing that on a tech platform. So that's available because we just couldn't, there was no way for us to keep it in the way that we were. So now the way that we're done our next level out is that you've got the time together synchronistically, which is either face-to-face physically or face-to-face virtually, and then the asynchronistic learning that goes in between.
So the list will ever grow. You talk about complexity being the newest one, which I just now remember. We're also putting work into one that's going to be about agility. Not agility like you know it, Henry, but just how to be agile, how to be an agile leader within today's environment. And then there's also situations where once you get this team together over time, over the course of the year, you can actually find pulling them together, not necessarily having a specific topic, continuing with the flow, continuing with the strategic timeout and the conversations and the accountabilities about whatever the topic is that bubbles up for the group at the moment. So there's a lot of flexibility here, but one key thing would be, you've done the leadership circle assessment at the front end. You could do a group report, maybe let that serve as a needs analysis, and that can kind of help inform which of these modules might be the highest impact for the group and to what extent do we want to put them into a certain order.
So for just as part of the conversation here, one of our additional add-ons now is availability of a deeper look at the group report. So what we're doing, in fact, I just finished 2 of these in the last 2 weeks with 2 different intact teams. Obviously, it works really well with the intact teams and their own development process together. And we'll take a deeper dive into the group report. We'll do a comments analysis. So we take in their open-ended comments. We find out where the center of gravity is with this team, what's making up that center of gravity on their shift between where they are to where they want to go, whether it's prime reactive or somewhere in between there and prime creative, and then get very specific on what's possible there. So what's coming out of the data analysis that we're doing in this group report is it creates another level of pathway. So what's a potential for a unlocking move for a collective leadership team in the way that they lead? So if you look at all the possibilities here of where it is that we could work collectively and what's most important for our organization, where's more than likely going to be the biggest impact for the value of the time and the resource spent on that. Very targeted, doesn't mean that it's prescriptive. It means that it provides potential in direction and the choice that we want to be in around our collective development as well as my individual. So I'm actually really excited about that. I'm sending some out this afternoon, so I'm curious about, I'll let you know how that turns out. Right now, it looks like it's going to be really very well received.
Thank you. Hey, next slide, please. As we wrap up leader to leader, I think I've hit most of these points. The one piece I'd like to really just emphasize, this truly is facilitated, and it doesn't mean you as the front of the room person doing all of that. Over time, it is the group all in this together. I'll use the point emphasizing Cliff Notes versus comprehensive guide. On purpose, we've created space. Many of you are familiar with the intimacy and the depth of a check-in. That's almost more of the tone where people are really going through this all together and going deep and going against business metrics and challenging each other and being vulnerable. That's the space that's created on purpose. Next. We can move one forward. So I'll give you just a couple of quick examples. We'll hit these for just very, very briefly. I wanted to showcase some of the introductory activities that happened in some of the first upfront pieces here. Wanting people to recognize and appreciate after their first debrief, what the costs and the consequences are of the reactive tendencies to themselves, to the team, to the organization, and start to build value propositions for what's in it for everybody if I'm putting effort towards my creative competency. And really start to build a business case for my own development. Next one. Personal accountability is a big part of all of this. Very possibly the most profound element of what this system does versus other training programs out there. Every time people are together, whether they're one-on-one with you, whether in the cohort in a leader-to-leader system, people are sharing back things that they tried, things that worked, things that didn't. The team together, peer coaching, is helping push people forward to more of a creative, managing better their reactive stance. All right.
I mean, literally, Michael has given us examples of hundreds of content pieces. So we don't get locked into needing to use all of the content pieces. What we are really clear on is what fits best in any given environment. And what you called earlier, Michael, you get to actually choose from amongst those. The outcome in here is that often we find that a facilitator, when they're choosing on the design side, has their client say to them, wow, how did you know this is what we needed right now? This is perfect for us. So that's the way we try to decide is how is it that the topical areas and content and working a topical area and content as a way for us to develop together actually are relevant to where we are in time and what's necessary. So at some level, we've really tried to work on what's just in time for most immediate or most pressing.
Appreciate it. The next slide will summarize briefly the pulse survey. This is really, really powerful. One more slide, please. Imagine I'm a leader and you're my coach, and with your help, you help me get it to just a few key things of focus versus the 7 or 8, trying to boil the ocean that I tend to always do. And so with that, we fine-tuned very relevant, one big thing and a couple of start and stop behaviors. And with that, then you, the coach, can put my one big thing, my start and stop behaviors into a little mini program we've identified 5 or 6 people who know me really well, and they've agreed to kind of keep me on my toes. We launched a survey out a couple of different times, checking in. Here's what Mike's aspiring to do. Can you please tell him how he's coming along? Can you provide some evidence or anecdotal information to help support his development? It's very, very powerful. I'll tell you, my last pulse survey, which was done last fall, I do remember taking my eye off the ball. Really, really busy with some other things, whatever I was busy with prior to COVID, I don't remember, but just kind of really distracted with getting stuff done and, really, really busy. And I got my into a reactive place, and I was not staying true to my leadership. My accountability circle called me on it. One person was really clear about, you were making such really great progress 2 months ago when you asked me last time, haven't seen evidence since. Like, kind of just a reminder, a very useful reminder to kind of just keep your eye on the ball. So that's that wraps up the third and final element of the leadership system. We went through it really, really quickly, but as we wrap this up and kind of go a broader level, imagine any group that you're working with could use any element of this. You might decide to do leadership circle profile and do a promise leadership only. There might be another session where you got a group of people, and maybe it's 25 people, and you break into 3 separate small cohorts. And you just put them all through a series of intimate leader-to-leader sessions over time. Or others might just want to just have a pulse survey as a way to keep the people that they're coaching staying true to their developmental goals. All of those are options as a result of this.
Michael?
Yes.
Back to the check-in slide. I saw something there that I hadn't seen before.
That would be in the leader-to-leader overview, was it?
Yeah, I think so.
Bill,
Well,
can you take it back? Oh.
Yeah, let's see if I can find the one you want. Right there?
It was actually a slide that described the check-in.
Not sure.
Yeah, I'm never going to find it again. I'm sorry, Tom.
Okay.
I may randomly hit it here in a second, but can you remember your question?
Yeah, it was just something I saw on the check-in, and I hadn't seen it before. It said the leader was going to share something, and I missed it.
Oh, the deck's going to go out to all of you, but I will tell you, just like in the certification, you all recognize the intimacy of the check-in every morning.
Yeah.
The very same thing happens in a leader-to-leader system, leader-to-leader session, every single one. Let's check in. How are you? What have you been doing? What's worked? What's not? Where are you vulnerable? Where are you feeling good? And just going deep. That's the key takeaway from what the check-in is.
Well, it's the combination of that, Michael, and what you mentioned previously is that it's the peer-to-peer accountability we're looking for.
Yeah.
So the check-in actually gives us an opportunity to create peer accountability, and obviously you can see the design methodology behind that.
Yep. Thank you.
Thank you for the question. So we just want to talk with you a little bit about the upcoming certification, October 6th through 8th. It's virtual. You go back one. I want you all to know we have always offered one, back to the previous one with the pictures. There we go. The leadership system has always been available in 2 formats, both classroom and virtual. So it's not something we retro-purposed. We've been doing it virtually for 5, 6, 7 years at least. We are probably doing our 10th leadership circle certification next week, done virtually. And we have also had success doing the leadership system virtually. This is a group we had in May of this year. So we got a handle on virtual. We've got some clever designs, both with a virtual mat. We do breakouts, we do breaks in intimate ways, buddy people up and so forth. We've got feedback from people saying we've done a nice job with the virtual. So know that we won't be experimenting with those of you that joined us in October. Moving to the next slide, I'm just going to offer a few quick things. Again, you'll have this deck. Happy to talk with you. As you think about your commitment or your interest in doing this, first of all, there's a value proposition from a financial standpoint. When you think about the investment of you doing one-on-one individual working with a group of 8 leaders, and we came up with a mock example of the development hour, about 462 US, just as an illustration, compared with a more robust developmental experience where you're still doing your coaching in between the session, but you're also doing it with group development work through the Promise of Leadership, the leadership system, the leader-to-leader pieces, and the Pulse survey, where you're maybe doing fewer one-on-one coaching sessions and your time with every person in the cohort is both combined collective and individual. So when you think about the total investment of your time, they're getting a lot more developmental hours and developmental energy at a lower per person and a per hourly cost. So if we want to sit down, you and I, one-on-one, and kind of mock up an example with a client you're thinking about, I'd be happy to walk you through all that. But this just illustrates where there could be some real good value as you propose this type of idea to the clients you serve. Next. As we think about you offering this as a service to the clients you serve, there is a cost for facilitation. The cost is $5,495 US. When you decide to deploy different elements of the leadership system, there are participant fees to go with the materials. We do know that most people also do the one-on-one coaching intermittently, and then whatever program management responsibilities you want to also include in your proposal. So that's all part of the proposal you want to think about as you propose this to clients that you serve. One thing we are doing is for this upcoming certification, you'll have unlimited use of the participant materials for 6 months. And so, one thing we encourage you to do is just really get out there, put it in front of people, and knowing that you won't be making that investment, the piece your clients will be investing in would be basically just your consulting and coaching time.
That includes the tech side of it, Michael. So that includes the tech side for that period of time, and that's just included in the fee. So just included that in the fee as part of it, as opposed to dropping right out. We want people to get a return on their investment quickly.
So as you're thinking about this, or a couple of you are already committed to joining us to whatever extent you'd like, we'd like you to come to the certification with an idea of a client or a leadership team you want to work with. Let's kind of think this all through and kind of anticipate what their business outcomes are they aspire to, what design looks like it might be in their best interest, and how you can start put together a business offer for them. Next slide, Bill. Here's just some things to think about. We've talked with people who have agreed to join us with Leadership System. Bill, how many, I want to say 700 people maybe have been certified in the Leadership System. What would you say?
Yeah, that sounds about right. That would be the right
if
thing.
there's 7,000 people like yourselves certified in the assessment, about 1 in 10 are certified in the Leadership System, partially because this has only been around for about 7 years. But those that choose to participate tend to lean in on this if they truly do have the commitment to working with cohorts and collective teams. The second bullet almost seems redundant. Everybody's dealing with huge needs for transformation.
Yeah, it's redundant now.
But a lot of you have the interest or the skill set, but maybe not the time to create your own courses. So these are all designed already for you. Literally, facilitator guides, PowerPoints, participant materials, ready to go. So there's an investment there for you. It may not make sense if you're one of those people, and we love you for it. A lot of you just like the intimacy of the one-on-one, just working with individual leaders, absolutely fine. But that might be a place where you might want to pause and ask if this is really going to make sense. And we do know there's a lot of people in the community who already have access to really good IP. You've already got some of your good stuff already there. So that's just a couple of variables you want to consider in determining whether you want to join us for the October session or thereafter. And then finally, one more point, and then we'll pause for any dialogue. If you are interested, you can just go on the Leadership Circle homepage, click on certifications and register. Others of you might want to learn a little bit more. Let us know how you'd like to learn. I'd be happy to talk with you one-on-one. We can send you a brochure. We can send you course designs, send you whatever way you like to learn. Perhaps you are wanting to think about how to create a value proposition with a client you're working with. Maybe we can talk it through together, and you can kind of put a business presentation together, meet with them in the next couple of weeks before making a commitment. And finally, you can learn a little bit more about this. A lot of this is built on the foundations of the book that Bill and Bob wrote, Scaling Leadership. So we have a few minutes left. Let me ask you to unmute, open up. Any comments or questions?
Did I miss it? Or what does the program cost?
As $5,495 is the cost to get certified. The first 6 months you have free materials, but if you plan to keep using it, roughly the participant material sets are roughly $200 per person per event.
Yeah, I would only change that to a slight reframe, Michael. You've already paid for the materials for the first 6 months. That's
Got it.
part. So yeah, that's the value for us.
So I'm beginning to work with a team that has 6 people. So the timing of this is sort of fortuitous. So so that would be, because what you just said, Bill, is if I join the course, I've already paid for the material?
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
But it's only for but it's only for the number of events that I do within that 6 months. So like if I'm going to do
Yes.
events 4, 5, 6, whatever, and those are coming after, then I would have
Yeah,
materials cost.
we really wanted people to,
Okay.
that this is a change for us in the way that we design, because we're moving for some of our practitioners, when it fits for them, we're moving to subscription and a model of pricing that actually makes this much more cost effective, and allows people to do it at scale. And all of you know what that means for us from a business standpoint. It gives us a way to move into a different model. So that's part of what this starts to do. We're also really leaning in when we think about face-to-face and virtual, right? They're both, you've got physical face-to-face and you've got virtual face-to-face, right? They're both face-to-face. And our belief is, based on what we're experiencing, is that the transition that we've made in the last 5 months changes fundamentally how much physical face-to-face we do compared to what we've done in the past. And so we've really got to lean into making that virtual face-to-face and the asynchronistic learning work in a whole new way. The world's changed that much. My clients right now are not budgeting travel for next year. They're budgeting travel at a whole different level than they were previously. And I don't have one right now that's saying, wow, I'd like to go back to those expenses.
Yeah.
Oh, that world's changing.
Yeah.
Michael and Bill and team, I just want to say I'm so impressed and thrilled and excited with what I have seen. And I'm bringing a team of 5 people plus me, a team of 6 from Palo Alto Networks to come in and do the certification next week, and then the collective certification. And I was planning to do this component on my own. And I realize now, if I want to really be able to hit scale the way that I intend to by the end of the calendar year, I need to bring the whole group to this session. So I'm thrilled with what I'm seeing, and I can't wait to start.
Oh, thank you, Catherine. It's so good to see you, Catherine. I heard about you yesterday again, and I know you can't imagine why. So now I get to put face with it. It's like, wow.
I will let you know that I pulled my team of 6 together to ask where they were in their process to make sure we're all ready for next week. And 2 of us had our debrief sessions, myself with Cindy and my colleague with Jared, and both of us said outstanding coaching. Really, we were both just, this is superb. And so extraordinary. So we're thrilled already.
Oh, I'm glad to hear that. We'll try not to drop the ball from here forward.
I know.
Exactly.
Nothing like a little pressure.
Thank you, Catherine. And I'm reminded, I've got a debrief and related to one of the people that will be joining them in next week's session. So I got a book. Bill, are you able to stay on for a few minutes and continue with the dialogue for a few?
You know what I've got, believe it or not, I got a coaching session straight up, so I'm going to leave everybody. But wow, what a great time to spend with you today. Thank you so much, everybody.
And
Thanks, everyone.
To all of you.
Thank you.
We look forward to talking with you soon. Be well, everybody.
Bye-bye.